Okay, this video is going to cover Chapter 6, Section 4. It's going to be Part 2. What we're going to do is graph with a phase shift. So we already saw the basic sine curve, the cosine. We also learned how to identify where the amplitude and the period was located. We learned how to graph without a phase shift or a vertical shift first. So we just did changing the amplitude and also the period. So we figured out how to speed it up or slow it down. We did examples using those. We also did the vertical shifts. Remember, when you add a number, it's shifting it up. When you subtract a number, it would be a shift down. Now what we're going to do is shift our graph horizontally. And it's going to be shifted in terms of radians. So we're going to go ahead and look at our first example. This one is, remember, when you do a phase shift, it's backwards of what you would think. So you would think that we're subtracting pi over 3. So you might think that we're going to shift it to the left, but actually it's backwards. So this, just like all the other graphs that we've done, this is going to be a shift to the right. And if you recall back when we did the angles in degrees, pi over 3 is 60 degrees. So we're shifting this to the right, pi over 3, or 60 degrees. So what I like to do is first set up my coordinate plane. I'm going to draw in my two axes here, my vertical, my horizontal, so my x and y axis here. And I'm going to go ahead and show you where I'm going to start my graph. So I'm starting it at 60 degrees. So if I want to go ahead and see my graph, I guess, spread out evenly, I'm going to let, in this particular problem, I'm going to let each one of my squares represent 30 degrees. So 60 degrees, or pi over 3, I'm going to put right here. Now, I need to be able to label my points along my x-axis, and they're all going to be spaced out 90 degrees apart. So again, if I let each square represent 30 degrees, I'm going to put 3 squares in between each one of the points that I'm going to graph. So I need to get 4 for each cycle. I need to get 4 points. 1, 2, 3. So I need 4 additional points to the right of my starting point and 4 to the left. Now, if each square is going to be 30 degrees, to make a separation of 90 degrees, my next marking is going to be right over here with just 1 square. So then here, again, 90 degrees. So I'm going to break it into 3 little boxes. So again, I want 4 points to the left as well. Now, to get the labels for these points, what I'm going to do is take my starting point, and as I said before, all of these are going to be spaced 90 degrees apart. So what I'm going to be doing is adding pi over 2 each time to get my additional points. Now, notice here I need to find a common denominator. My common denominator is going to be 6. So I'm going to change this into 2 pi over 6 plus 3 pi over 6, which gives me 5 pi over 6. So if you think about it, pi over 3 is 60 degrees. When I add 60 plus 90, that's 150. And that's what 5 pi over 6 is. So again, each time I'm going to be adding 90 degrees. So now I'm going to take the 5 pi over 6 that I just got. I'm going to add 90 degrees. So remember, with the common denominator, the equivalent of pi over 2 with a common denominator is 3 pi over 6. I now get 8 pi over 6. I'm going to go ahead and reduce this because this is what I need to label my x-axis with. But when I go to calculate my next point, I'm going to use the unsimplified fraction, because otherwise I just have to go back and find a common denominator. So let me go ahead and add 3 pi over 6 again, 11 pi over 6. I'm going to do it one more time so I have 4 points. 11 pi over 6 plus 3 pi over 6 gives me 14 pi over 6. This one can be reduced as well. Now, it should be a 3. Now, unlike before, when I went to label the left side of the graph, I could just do it like a mirrored image. This one I actually have to calculate, and I have to figure out what 90 degrees is away from the pi over 3. So I'm going to subtract 90 degrees. Again, common denominator here. So it becomes 2 pi over 6 minus 3 pi over 6, which gives me negative pi over 6. To get my next point, take negative pi over 6, subtract 3 pi over 6, negative 4 pi over 6. This can be reduced. Again, to get my next point, and I need 4 of them, I'm going to take the unsimplified fraction, because again, it's got the common denominator already. Negative 7 pi over 6. I'll do it one more time. Subtract 3 pi over 6, negative 10 pi over 6, and I simplify this to negative 5 pi over 3. So now let me go ahead and take all of these newly calculated numbers, and I'm going to add them to the x-axis. Go ahead and label my x-axis. So the first one here is going to be the 5 pi over 6. Then the next one is the 4 pi over 3. Then the 11 pi over 6. And then lastly, the 7 pi over 3. Again, your goal is to get 4 additional points to the right of your starting point, because again, remember we shifted it to the right. So now let me label the left side. This is now negative pi over 6. And if you think about it, this is negative 30 degrees. And my starting point is positive 60. So you can see the gap in between these 2 points is 90 degrees, as well as all of these, 90 degrees in between each. So let's go ahead and keep going. Let me keep labeling. Go ahead and put this 4 pi over 3 back. And now the next point we calculated was negative 2 pi over 3, negative 7 pi over 6, and negative 5 pi over 3. Now that I have the x-axis clearly labeled, now I can add in my points. So we are graphing the sine graph. Remember, sine starts at normally at 0, 0, but now remember we've shifted it to the right to the pi over 3. So my first point is going to go here at pi over 3, comma 0. And then from there, because the amplitude is a 1, I'm going to go up to 1. Let me go ahead and add that into my y-axis here. Say this one's 1, and then I can go down the same number of boxes down here. This could be negative 1. So I'm going to go at 5 pi over 6 up to the 1. And again, I'm just repeating the sine pattern. Back down again, and then back up. Connect these points. And now let's complete the pattern on the left side. So again, common mistake here. Remember, each one of these dots, these points that I'm graphing, they are all 90 degrees apart. So there is no stopping point on the y-axis, because from pi over 3 to the y-axis, that's only 60 degrees. So I need to actually go to negative pi over 6, and this is where my next point goes. So from pi over 3 to negative pi over 6, this is where I stop. And then my next point will be back up here at the x-axis at negative 2 pi over 3. And then again here, and then back down to the axis. So this is a phase shift, shifting your graph 60 degrees to the right, or pi over 3. Let's try a shift with the cosine graph. Notice this time I'm adding pi over 4. So this pi over 4 is a shift of 45 degrees, and it's backwards of what you would think. So I'm shifting it 45 degrees to the left. This one also has an amplitude of 2. So when I go to label my y-axis, I'm going to add 2 and negative 2 to it. So let's go ahead and set up our x and our y-axis. And I'm going to go ahead and put where my starting point is going to be. So it's to the left, pi over 4. Now, pi over 4 is 45. So maybe to help it look like it's spaced out a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and say 2 squares is pi over 4. So then that way, that's half a 90. So I could say that 90 would be 4 squares. So over here, this could be pi over 4. And now I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Every 4 squares will be 90 degrees. You can make up your scale whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Let me go in this direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, remember you want 4 points to the left and 4 points to the right of the starting point. And this is my starting point. So I need to go one more. All right, so now, just to show you how I got that pi over 4, remember we're taking the starting point, which is negative pi over 4, and I'm adding 90 degrees, which is pi over 2. I need to find a common denominator. It's going to be 4. So negative pi over 4 plus 2 pi over 4 gives me pi over 4, which is the point that I just labeled to the right. I now take pi over 4, add 90 again, which is equivalent to 2 pi over 4, and I get 3 pi over 4. Do it again. Add 2 pi over 4 again, 5 pi over 4, one more time. Again, add 2 pi over 4, and now we're at 7 pi over 4. So let's go ahead and label it. This is just the right side. So the next point was 3 pi over 4, 5 pi over 4, and 7 pi over 4. Now I need to get the 4 points to the left of negative pi over 4. So again, take negative pi over 4, subtract pi over 2. Again, common denominator, negative pi over 4 minus 2 pi over 4, negative 3 pi over 4. Notice this is just going to be the mirrored image like before. So sometimes, depending on what your shift is, sometimes it is the mirrored image. But I'll go ahead and do the calculations for you, just to show you we get the same numbers. Negative 5 pi over 4 minus 2 pi over 4, negative 7 pi over 4. And because I need 4 points to the left, I need to do it one more time. So let me go ahead and put those on the x-axis. So negative 3 pi over 4, negative 5 pi over 4, negative 7 pi over 4, and then the last one. Because again, you want 4 points that are to the left. Now, at first glance, you're going to say, well, why do you have, and let me see if I can make these a little bit smaller. I think I did it when it wasn't spread out here. So 3 pi over 4, 5 pi over 4, and 7 pi over 4. Now you're going to say, well, why are there 5 points to the left of the y-axis and 4 to the right, it's because there are 4 to the left of the starting point and 4 to the right. So now let's go ahead and add in our amplitude. So my amplitude is 2. So I'm going to say this is 2. And down here is -2. So we're starting at -pi/4. And normally the cosine graph starts on 1. But because this has an amplitude, the cosine graph will always start on the amplitude. So I'm going to start at -pi/4, 2. So up here is my first point. Again, don't make the mistake of putting a stopping point on the y-axis. Again, the points need to be 90 degrees apart. So I'm going to go ahead and put a point here. And then my next one will be down here, back up, and then back up again. So down, 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 up. And then I'm going to go in the other direction, down, up, and then up. So down, up, and here. And this is a phase shift of the cosine graph. And we're shifting it 45 degrees to the left. All right, let's try another one, still the sine graph. This sine graph also has an amplitude. This time I'm shifting it 90 degrees to the right. So this one, when I go to get my points along the x-axis, it's easy because it comes right from the coordinates. So again, pi/2, and let me go ahead and set up the axis here. So let me draw in my y-axis and my x-axis. Again, we're starting to the right, pi/2. So this is my first point. So I need to get the next point, which is 90 degrees away. So I've got all my markings here. Let me go over to this side as well. All right, so now I have them all spaced out. So let me go ahead and do the calculations. So my next point that is going to be to the right of pi/2. Again, you're adding pi/2 to pi/2, and it's just pi. Because remember, that's 180. And then if you take, again, the unsimplified, so you have the common denominator, 3 pi/2, which is the 270. Let's do it one more time. Pi/2, 4 pi/2 simplifies to 2 pi. So let's go ahead and add these on here. 3 pi/2, 2 pi. I need to do it one more time, and that's actually going to be 5 pi/2. I'll show you the calculation. Let me see if I can fix this one as well. It looks kind of big. All right, so let's do the last point calculation. Again, take the unsimplified, and that's how you get the 5 pi/2. Let's go ahead and do the calculations for the left side. So we take pi/2, we subtract pi/2. This one actually does have a point on the y-axis because one of our stopping points is 0. So then we take 0, subtract pi/2, and we get negative pi/2. Do it again. Negative 2 pi/2, which is negative pi. Again, to get the next point, take the unsimplified fraction. Negative 3 pi/2. So let me go ahead and label these. So I already have the 0, and then I have the negative pi/2, negative pi, and then negative 3 pi/2. Go ahead and make that smaller. Negative pi/2. All right, so now I have 4 points. This is my starting point. 4 points to the right, and 0 is one of the stopping points here, and then 4 to the left. So let's go ahead now and let's graph this. So it's the sine graph. We also have to add in the amplitude. So I'm going to add in, put 2 here, and -2 down here. So sine normally starts at 0, 0, but I do have a shift over to the right. So I'm going to start here at pi/2, 0. It's got a negative amplitude. So I'm going to go down for this negative sine graph. At pi, it's going to be at -2, back up to the axis at 3 pi/2, up to +2 at 2 pi, and then back down. So here, 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 and here. And then this time I do have a stopping point because I calculated 0. So up here, it's going to go to the y-axis and stop here, then back down at -pi/2. At pi, it's going to be at the -2, and then back to the axis at -3 pi/2. So when your shift is 90 degrees, you will have a point on the y-axis. So just be careful. We have one last example. Again, it's just the same thing for the phase shift. So let's take a look at one more. Again, a cosine graph. Here is my amplitude. So I have an amplitude of 1/2. I have a shift backwards of what you think, right, pi/12, which is equivalent to 15 degrees. So let's go ahead and set up our x and our y axis. So I'm going to go ahead and put in here, because it's to the right, I'm just going to say one little mark here, one little square is going to be the pi/12. And I want to space it out 90 degrees. So I can go ahead and just approximate it and then say 90 is every 4, just so it's sort of evenly spaced. Let's say 3. And we'll evenly space them. And I need 4 points over to the right, and then I need 4 points to the left. So far I've got 3, I need to go 1 more. So now, and we can also add in our amplitude while we're here. We could say that 1/2 is about here. We'll do 3 squares. And then the -1/2 is here. So let's go ahead and do the calculation so we know what to put on each one of these little marks. So again, I'm taking the pi/12, which is my starting point, and I'm adding pi/2. I need to find a common denominator. It's going to be 12. 6 pi/12 gives me 7 pi/12. Take that newly calculated number, add 6 pi/12 again. 13 pi/12. Do it again. 6 pi/12. 19 pi/12. Do it one more time. And I get 25 pi/12. These are going to be the 4 points to the right. Let me go ahead and do the left side as well. So pi/12 minus pi/2. With the common denominator, it's pi/12 minus 6 pi/12, which gives me -5 pi/12. Take that newly calculated number, subtract 6 pi/12 again, -11 pi/12, subtract again, and I get -17 pi/12. One more time, 6 pi over 12, negative 23 pi over 12. So let's go ahead and get all these special points on the x-axis. So after the pi over 12, remember it was the 7 pi over 12. Then the next one was the 13 pi over 12. Then the 19 pi over 12. And then the 25 pi over 12. To the left, when we subtracted, the first one here was negative 5 pi over 12, negative 11 pi over 12, negative 17 pi over 12, and negative 23 pi over 12. So again, my starting point, this is the cosine graph, and it has an amplitude of 1/2. So for my first point, remember we were shifting it to the right. So at pi over 12, my first point goes up here at the 1/2. Then my second point comes down to the x-axis. Then over here at the 13 pi over 12, back up again, and then over here again. So it goes down, down, up, up. Again, we'll complete the pattern on this side. Do not stop on the y-axis this time, because 90 degrees away from the starting point is the negative 5 pi over 12. Come over here, stop, go here, and then back up here. And that is another example of a phase shift, shifting it to the right pi over 12. So that is it for the sine and the cosine graphs with all of the shifts. Remember, you have the web assigned homework, 6 problems there, as well as 6 problems in a PDF.